page 10 in the pink book. Please rise if you're willing and able. In a little different order today, and Reverend Duncan Teague is going to come forward and light our flame and explain to us a little bit of why we light a flame.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the reasons why we wrote the book was to sort of take us out of automatic and look at our rituals in a different way, or in our case from an African American perspective, and just try to think about why would we start a ceremony here at the First Existentialist by lighting lights. Unitarians reached back and found that we had chalices as a sign of safety when we were doing espionage in World War II. When you saw a chalice, you knew it was safe. And they were small enough and they looked enough like crosses that you could, we could get away with it. I think the reason you all like the lights, and I believe this is true, is because there's a light in all of us. A light that we want you to recognize even from the very beginning of the service.
Welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a philosophically based spiritual community based on feminism and humanism, and we believe that you have a right to control your own thoughts and bodily actions, and if you need to rise and move around at any time during the service, we welcome you to do so. There's a kitchen in the back with coffee and tea. There's a bathroom in the back and a downstairs. We honor the African American ancestors who built this building with the Antioch East Baptist Church, and we honor that we acknowledge that they were driven from this community by racial hostility, and we also acknowledge that the Muskogee Creek people owned this land before they were driven away in the mid-1800s. We honor our history, and we acknowledge that not all of it is good history. Our opening words come from the book that Duncan and Anthony and Ayanna have written called Imani Rituals. And this quote is by Pope John Paul II during his visit to Ghana in 1980. Africa has something distinctive to offer to the world. A vision of the world where the sacred is central. A deep awareness of the link between creator and nature, a great respect for all life, a sense of family and of community that blossoms into an open and joyful hospitality, reverence for dialogue as a means for settling differences and sharing insights. Spontaneity and the joy of living expressed in poetic language, song, and dance. All these aspects manifest a culture with an all-encompassing spiritual dimension. This is what makes the African culture unique. Wow.
Yeah.
So read more, there's lots of gems in here. I'm Cindy Lou. I think I know most of you very well. I'm calling for community announcements. You can bring them to me at any time to the service, and I'm not going to read them until the very end. Now I welcome Reverend Duncan Teague to come back up for a recognition of rituals and Ubuntu.
Part of recognizing this principle is knowing how long me and Cindy have known each other. We have grown godchildren together who weren't here when they asked us to be the godparents, right? Wow. How did that happen? Also, here's the book. It is available at Caris. It is also available at Caris, through Caris to online. So if you have been trying not to support certain billionaires, support your local feminist bookstore. And I heard from Caris, because I had to go in to get a book and to check in on some things, I've heard that Caris actually can get them readily because the distributor has made them. What I wanted to say about this part of it was I wanted to read my dedication and then bring y'all into it. I thought I'm helping write or contribute to a book about rituals from the African and African American traditions. And I thought, who in my past helped me get here? And I wrote, I dedicate my participation in this examination of rituals to Sister Kizzy Ricks and Mother Delcy Jackson, two senior African-American women and church mothers at Westminster Baptist Church in Kansas City, Missouri. They're both gone on. They saw my ministry as real and important long before I heard the call. Long before I wanted to hear the call. And I'm grateful for Westminster Church, where my father, now retired Reverend Russell L. Teague, pastored with the dedication and support of my late mother, Alice Jean Teague. And my childhood spiritual home was a foundation for who I became as I grew up and embraced Unitarian Universalism. Finally, I'm grateful for Dr. Anthony and Ayanna Kafi Stringer's invitation to contribute to this book. In the book, later on, we talk about Ubuntu. Did I say it right, Anthony? Mostly, I think the South African and East African thing that you hear, but you see it all over the diaspora, wherever people of African descent are. Ubuntu, I am because you are. We are because of who you are. We. A sense of identity not based in individuality, but based in your place in a community that you know loves and supports you. So I could have wrote in my dedication, but it's an African-American themed book, that I want to dedicate my participation in the book to the late Reverend Linnea Clarence and the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta, because as I stumbled up the stairs as a burnout gay activist and AIDS activist, y'all helped me come to terms with wearing get-ups like this and becoming a minister. So Ubuntu almost seems in contradiction to existentialism, which does own individualism very strongly and very highly. But maybe you are an existentialist because of the communities that help form you. Maybe we are where we are because of the larger we from which we come. Maybe having a sense of a larger loving and caring community might save us now, because we so need it. I have a sense from my own ministry that a lot of people feel absolutely overwhelmed and devastated right now, because they say, I can't do anything. I don't believe that, by the way. But if your I always includes the we from which you come, you see where I'm going there? If you say we can do something, even though I'm devastated, even though I'm anxious, even though I'm afraid, wow, that changes it. And there has to be something that we can do, even if it's just love and support each other through this nightmare. I don't think I have to distinguish which nightmare we're talking about. That's where I wanted to take us, so that you don't feel excluded from a book on nurturing African spiritual heritage, that there might be, in fact, one of the authors who you helped form. Amen. And now we're going to do the ritual that a lot of folks come for, the recognition of those significant things that are happening in your life. your birthdays, your anniversaries, your divorces, your yes.
First, I'd like to ask anybody who might be here for the first time or second time to stand up and introduce themselves, because we welcome those who come through our doors and we'd like to get to know you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Wendy. I'll talk about Alice's mom.
Oh, welcome. Glad to have you. From Boston? Welcome. Now, if there's anyone who has a birthday or anniversary, we invite you to come forward and we'll sing for you, to you. First, we're going to sing to Happy Birthday to Stell. She's 69. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Stell. Happy birthday to you. Now we're going to sing Happy Birthday to Diana. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Diana. Happy birthday to you. Now we're going to join together and sing another congregational song under the eye of Craig Refuse, number 6 in the Pink Book, What a World There Can Be. Please stand as you're willing and able.
It's gonna go like this. It goes like that. Here we go. Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day dark blue clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. We have dreamed, we have died to make a right tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with hope and not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
stay in your phone or on some screen. And keep it to yourself. And in a country that's wrestling with our right to express ourselves freely, whether we're in contradiction with the power in place now or not. The First Tee has always been a place where you could bring those things that are most important to you. The reason I think you've always done this is because it's how we stay in community. When I hear that something has broken your heart, I get to be with you in that. Or, even more important, because my family was good about broken hearts. What about those things you want us to join you in celebration and happy birthday? I don't believe the number spells it, but happy birthday to both of you. But those things that you need to celebrate, because for many of us, we have to wait till we get to the First Tee, so we have somebody who will cheer for us. Are there any?
I have a song I've written about a cat that Kathy Pitkin and I live with. So, there is the coolest cat. No, can't be there. There is the coolest cat. His name is Bebop. He plays a character right out of Aesop. He teaches lessons from famous fables and always seems so keen to turn the tables upon our reckless tendency to fritter, our need to sabotage another quitter. However, his meowing present tenses prod us to wisely crawl back to our senses. Bebop is black and white, wears a tuxedo, the incarnation of Holy Toledo. Awaits to welcome worries from the struggle, and when we get in bed, hots up to snuggle. Deservedly the center of attention, a Darth of nuisances too few to mention. His people, Kathy and myself, adore him, and think of nothing we would not do for him. Now, I play in a band that plays bebop music, and we played here at one of the recent art openings a couple months ago. It's called The Owls, and we'll be playing at Oakhurst Porch Fest coming up soon. Anyway, I have a verse about some bebop, famous bebop. Charlie and Miles, Monk, Coltrane, and Disney, a tangle rearranged into a tizzy, invigorates a hankering to plug in, get down and do the fruit that eyes a muggin, which is a song. And while we groove to Reinhardt and Grappelli, prepare to Bessie Smith ourselves to jelly, commence to rock and roll away to crying, dancing to keep the peace and love from dying. There is the coolest cat, his name is Bebop. How I entertain myself when I can't sleep in the middle of the night.
Thank you for your many gifts of music. Thank you all for your, yes. Thank you all for the many gifts that sustain this fabulous community here, right across the street from Campbell Park. next year you'll be here, having been established as a community for 50 years. That means as of next year, when y'all talk about me, you say, well, Duncan arrived as a child. It is quite an honor to introduce Tony, who is Dr. Anthony Stringer. He is a longtime and faithful member of UU Congregation of Atlanta. He's also quite a respected leader in our national movement. He served on our ministerial fellowship committee, the committee responsible to helping our ministers become ministers. He's also a retired now researcher, a neuropsychologist. And have you finally finished your projects?
Getting close.
So that's a small R on retired. He and his wife Sakaya are parents and grandparents, and they are enjoying that. Because now they're traveling to and going to. The kids don't have to come to them, they go to them. It was Tony's idea to do this book, right? And then he wrangled me and Ayanna along, and I don't know if he regrets that yet or not. But it felt good to do this with brilliant father and daughter team, and to do it in honor of their long-held experience. I don't want to leave this part out. Abundant Love does not claim to be the first African-American centered Unitarian Universalist congregation, because we aren't. There was a community that started before us, and we stand on their shoulders. Thurman Hamer Ellington and Dr. Anthony Stringer was one of the core people to get that going and to help it be sustained during the life of that community. And so I present to y'all and introduce to others my friend, Tony, who is Dr. Anthony Stringer. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. You are a good friend. That was a very kind introduction. It was a little over 25 years ago when my daughter, whose name is Ayanna, received her first serious marriage proposal at the mature age of 13. Actually, I received a proposal on her behalf. We had stopped to pump gas at a rural gas station in the KwaZulu-Natal region of South Africa. The name Ayanna means beautiful flower. Although Ayanna didn't get out of our SUV, an elderly gentleman with an eye for beauty nonetheless noticed her. I assumed he was Zulu, given where we were traveling. He didn't speak English, so he spoke to me through my interpreter. The elderly gentleman complimented my daughter in a manner that I immediately knew was polite and respectful, even though we weren't speaking the same language. After complimenting her, he asked if she was married. I said she was not. He asked if she was promised to anyone. I said again that she was not. By this time, my daughter, who had been napping in the back seat, was starting to pay attention. Now, I'm not sure whether the Zulu gentleman was asking for himself or was asking on behalf of a son whom he thought might make a good match with my daughter. But he did make it clear how valuable he thought this pairing might be. He was willing to pay a steep price for my daughter's hand in marriage. Now, this was an expensive trip. So I was at least a little curious about what he might be offering. I glanced at my daughter, whose attention was now fully engaged. It turns out that television sets were rare and valuable at that time in the rural Zulu areas. He He was willing to offer me an only slightly used, almost brand new television set. Now, as the intensity of my daughter's gaze assumed laser-like proportions, I asked the elderly gentleman whether the TV set was a color set or black and white. And wouldn't you know it was black and white. I thought a moment longer so as to not offend this polite gentleman, but then declined his generous offer. And so my daughter didn't get engaged that particular day. Now, I find this story endlessly amusing. My daughter, now fully grown and happily married, however, does not. Which is why I ask that if you ever happen to meet my daughter, please don't tell her I told you this story. And you could meet her. She's currently studying to be a UU minister at the Star King Seminary in California, and she is the co-author with myself and Reverend Duncan of the book Imani Ritual. She actually got married in this sanctuary. The first time. Didn't end quite so happily, but the second time, very happy. So let me ask you the question we ask of our readers. Is there a place for ritual in liberal religions, including Unitarian Universalism? The answer to this question has varied over time. As a creedless faith, UUs eschew dogma and embrace reason and tolerance of varying beliefs and customs. A faith that can broadly encompass theistic and humanist themes faces a challenge in finding religious customs and rituals that satisfy diverse spiritual cravings. In earlier decades, the solution sometimes was to avoid rituals as much as possible. On my very first visit to my current home congregation, almost 4 decades ago, I was surprised to hear 2 people who were members of the church complaining about the minister after a worship service. I can't believe, one of them said to the other, I can't believe that he actually lit that damn candle during worship. But now, decades later, we routinely incorporate everything from chalice and candlelighting to liturgical dance to create an often theatrical worship experience. Towards the end of the year, not only do we light our chalice at my congregation, but we also light Hanukkah candles, Kwanzaa candles, and candles for Advent. Nonetheless, when ritual elements are included in UU worship, humanist gatherings, and various other forms of liberal religious life, they typically are drawn from European American cultures and traditions. Consequently, a better question to ask today is whether there is a place for a broader ritual cloth that captures the diverse cultures and heritages of the people who seek a home within contemporary liberal faith traditions. This question requires some clarification and context before we attempt to answer it. First, by ritual, we're not referring to mere habit, the routines each of us performs on a recurring basis. We're not referring to that morning cup of coffee while reading the newspaper, the evening stroll through the park with a canine companion, or the nightly dive into a YouTube or Facebook rabbit hole. When we're speaking of ritual, we're speaking of something far deeper and far more engaging. And we've all had deep and engaging moments when feelings welled up, spilled over, and overwhelmed us. That awe-struck gasp at the endless night sky. That unspeakable tenderness inspired by a lover's gaze. That celebratory joy when friends reunite after forced separation. That passion and purpose when the community stands together for what it knows is just and right. These are the very feelings that ritual is meant to inspire reliably and predictably. So to clarify our original question, is there room for this type of ritual, deep and engaging, richly drawing upon well springs of human emotion? Is there room for this type of ritual in liberal religious life? But just last Sunday, a longtime member of my congregation answered an emphatic no to this question. UUs, he said, are rational and stoical. So I submit that even today we're far from consensus in answering the question, do religious traditions that wed themselves to human reason risk divorcing themselves from human passion? The context in which we ask these questions is one of growing diversity within UU and other liberal religious or spiritual traditions, and specifically the growing appeal these traditions have for African Americans. The Pew Research Center surveyed over 8,000 Black Americans between 2019 and 2020 and found that while a majority who participate in services attend predominantly Black congregations, a third do not. Of those who are looking for new churches, 63% do not place great importance on whether members share the same racial background. In this context, the questions we ask can be further refined to explore how well liberal religious churches can meet the spiritual needs and ritual expectations of the African Americans who seek them out. Some sense of how equipped these liberal congregations are to meet the needs of African Americans may be found in contrasting the experiences of those who attend predominantly Black churches and those attending congregations that are predominantly white. Spontaneous physical and vocal expressions during worship, and this includes dancing, running, jumping, shouting, or saying amen, occur in 76% of Black Protestant churches, but in only 37% of white-led churches that African Americans attend. And if you feel like running right now, jumping, shouting, yeah, I think so. Contrasts even appear in private rituals. 79% of Black Americans pray daily, while only 44% of liberal white Protestants do. A third of Black Americans pray to their ancestors, an option so unlikely to be endorsed by white Protestants that surveys do not even ask them. Now let us answer these questions we've been asking. We do believe there's room for rich and emotionally engaging ritual in liberal religion generally, and specifically in the UU faith tradition to which we belong. We further believe that the rich cultural and spiritual tapestry of the African diaspora can be a source of deeply moving and satisfying ritual, not only for African Americans, but for all those who seek out and thrive within liberal religious communities. The fact that you invited us to talk about our book, published by Skinner Books, our inward-looking UU denominational publishing house. This invitation implies that you share our belief in ritual, or that you are at least curious. Now, a search of the UUA website provides compelling proof that UUs yearn for ritual and have created dozens of rituals in response to this yearning. But with very few exceptions. Most UU rituals are monocultural, which is to say they reflect white, European origin culture. Even when UU rituals are international in scope, as in an ingathering water ceremony that connects us to places around the world, or a water communion that mentions the multiple religious and philosophical traditions that inspire our faith, from Christianity to existentialism. Our rituals are still primarily verbal and inwardly reflective in nature. They make you think. They don't necessarily make you feel. Why does UUism, a religion that claims 6 sources encapsulating much of the human theological and philosophical heritage, not have a broader body of ritual to draw upon? Why is the tapestry of our faith woven in monochromatic threads? Now, there's good reason for our reticence. to broaden the ritual tapestry. We worry about cultural appropriation. In other words, the exploitation of another culture, particularly one that has been minoritized, marginalized, and oppressed by us. The issue, however, is complicated. The us refers to the dominant culture, which within liberal faiths tends to be white and European. As the collective we broadens to include more diverse people, we're forced to rethink what we mean by us. The authors of Imani ritual are Black and African American. One of us was raised UU, my daughter. Another was raised in his father's Black Christian church, Duncan. And a third spent his adolescence in a church that centered activism and Afrocentrism equally. Yet each of us individually has spent over 3 decades as committed Unitarians. Our collective we is not encapsulated within the reticent us. If avoidance of cultural appropriation means we do not embrace the culture and traditions of the African continent and diaspora, then it means that we too are outside of the UU embrace. We want to bring our culture with us. We want to experience liberal religion in a context that's familiar to the senses. We want the sights, sounds, tastes, smells, and emotions that are part of our heritage. We want the same freedom that UUs who come from Christian, Jewish, and other cultural and spiritual backgrounds enjoy within our congregations. We want the freedom to alter and interpret our heritage within the context of our UU faith. UU Christians celebrate Easter differently than they likely did before they became UU. The same can be said for the way UUs of Jewish ancestry and heritage engage with the high holy days within their current congregations. Arguably, African American UUs desire even more the freedom to create new ritual and tradition within the framework of our heritage, given that ours is a culture known for syncretism and improvisation. We improvise, do we not? Bebop musician. We improvise, reinterpret, and synthesize spiritually, because that is part of who we are. Imani is Swahili for faith. The 18 Imani rituals in our book are intended for individual, family, congregational, and community practice. The individual rituals include meditations to promote a sense of spiritual possession, spiritual transcendence, and acceptance of change. The family rituals focus on, among other topics, remembering ancestors and honoring elders. Congregational and community rituals include prayer, feasting, and celebrations of freedom and Kwanzaa. In many instances, the language of the rituals can be modified for individual, family, congregational, or community settings, so that each can be flexibly adapted to meet multiple needs. Options for varying each ritual are included, but even these are just points of departure. The rituals are intended to address real human needs in ways that are deeply meaningful, emotionally engaging, and culturally inclusive. But you can reasonably ask, how inclusive do we intend the rituals to be? Are the rituals only intended for use by African Americans within my congregation? Can white people participate in these rituals without it becoming an instance of cultural appropriation? The answer is again more complicated than simply yes or no. Consider the caramel ritual. It celebrates African American heritage and unity. It uses a table divided into color-coded sections representing different times in the African American experience in the US. The ritual includes these words: let us gather around our communal table. Each area symbolizes an era of African American history. The black area of our table reminds us of our time before slavery, when we lived in peace and freedom in Africa. I pour a libation to our African ancestors, known and unknown, from that era. Now, these words would obviously ring hollow if not spoken by an African American. People of other ethnicities and backgrounds can be welcome guests at the ritual table, bringing food and with them to the feast, but the ritual is for African Americans. Contrastingly, prayer, spiritual transcendence, ancestorship, ancestor remembrance, and other rituals do not include language or practices that are appropriate only for persons of color. While inspired by African and African diasporan cultures, they are universal rituals. UUs seek the universal within the particular. There are universals within the particularities of African-inspired spirituality. It is those universals that are Africa's contribution to the canon of human spirituality, and that through these rituals are our contributions to UUism and other liberal faiths. If you need permission, then consider us having given permission for anyone to practice what is universal within our particular African American heritage. To do so honors that heritage and affirms that UUism values it as part of the earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. The earth includes Africa, its offspring living around the world, and the traditions they bring or create. If we fail to broaden the tapestry of liberal faith to include the vitality of Africa's descendants, then the liberal faith traditions will be poor for it. I want to close with where we began. I didn't realize you were going to open with a quote from the book. I'm going to end with that same quote. I'm going to go ahead and repeat it. Okay.
Great.
This is from Pope John Paul II during his visit to Ghana in 1980. Pope John Paul says, Africa has something distinctive to offer to the world. A vision of the world where the sacred is central. A deep awareness of the link between creator and nature. A great respect for all life. A sense of family and of community that blossoms into an open and joyful hospitality. Reverence for dialogue as a means of settling differences and sharing insights. Spontaneity and the joy of living expressed in poetic language, song, and dance. All these aspects manifest a culture with an all-encompassing spiritual dimension. This is what makes the African culture unique. Each nation brings to the family of nations its own cultural contribution, and through the legitimate expression of values and traditions, there is possible a harmony among peoples that transcend partisan differences, prejudices, and rivalries. Such a harmony, built on respect for and openness towards the values of others, facilitates the possibility of concerted action on problems that extend beyond the borders of individual nations. Africa is called to bring fresh ideals and insights to a world that shows signs of fatigue and selfishness. We, the authors, hope to fulfill this prophetic vision, at least in some small measure, through our Imani rituals. Ashe.
To sing, There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
Duncan, I wonder if you'll help me to lead this.
This book.
Over that mic, maybe? Yeah. It's not on.
It's in your program. It's real simple. By the time we get to the second verse, you won't need the program. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And there's a river flowing in my soul, in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that somebody, there's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my soul, There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Thank you all for coming today. Please stay and join us. As we do every third Sunday, there's a potluck following the service. And tonight, Stacey Abrams speaks on Zoom at 8:30. It's time to strategize. Register at Win with Black Women, Ian, plural. Have a good day.